Hey everybody, Tyler Jackson Pritchard here at Bridge to Triumph, a show with Young Soy Gallery here at PMQ inside of G.O.D. I'm going to take you through a little bit of my work here. Come inside. So recently I've been very interested in the idea of crowds, based on books I've read, End of Perfume, and of this other book called The Day of the Locust, the protests throughout the world, and also the idea of COVID and staying away from crowds. So I've been really into this idea of crowd dynamics. So as you look at this piece right here, you can see there's tons of people. And it's one of those things that the more you look at it, the more people that emerge. But when you stand back, you see a few main characters. And I wanted to have this idea of meshing different figures together. So as you look at it, you get more out of the piece. So moving on to this next one over here, this one's called Communicator. And this is more of the Heads of State series I'm working on. The color scheme you'll notice throughout all the paintings are kind of put together so that we could have a cohesive unit for the show. So we move next over here. This is another piece called Day of the Locust, based on that book I mentioned right there. And another thing you'll notice is kind of the scratches and textures throughout this piece. And what I wanted to do is add another level of dimension to the piece. And these scratches were made with knives, fingernails, all sorts of things. So kind of a fit of exuberance made this piece. I wanted to have main characters up front that you could see immediately, but then there's also a hidden character right here, kind of a reverse look at what is actually being discussed inside the piece. This piece, Faye, is a little bit, it's a smaller piece. Usually my pieces are fairly big, but for this one, a little bit different kind of techniques done here. So if you can see in the back here, this was done with a blowtorch, and then on top of it is an acrylic transfer of a early 1930s ad. So we have the female figure up front here, which you can see a little bit of her eyes coming through, and then there's kind of spikes to add this little bit of violence in there, and then a great big space around the outside of it to kind of give it room to breathe. When we come around the corner here, we have a piece that was recently sold called Todd. And Todd relates to Faye and the Day of the Locust. They're all kind of characters in this book. The idea when I approach doing a character study is more so looking at them as an archetype. What does that character mean instead of being that specific character? You can see there's a lot of emotional marks throughout here, and then a subtle face you can see here as well. Lastly, we're going to go to the piece right over here. This, you can see, is a little bit of a departure from the ones above there. It's a little bit happier and a little bit more joyous. It's called Let It Out, and you can see up here, say, a positive Pandora's box. So if you can imagine, this is a transformative piece as far as people opening something up and kind of bringing color to the world. Another thing to note on this piece is there's a subtle effect of adding translucent layers between the color layers. So there's a little bit more three-dimensional aspect to it, as well as the continued carving from earlier, which is starting to become a reoccurring motif in my pieces. And I guess my favorite part about this piece is the subtle three-dimensional aspect these lines make. As far as it seems like it's coming at you. It seems like it's coming and beckoning for you to look deeper into it. Thanks very much for taking a look, and hopefully you come and take a look at the show.